6 in the morning. The alarm screams. Sarah opens her eyes and her heart is already racing. Before her feet touch the floor, her mind is running through the day ahead. Emails, meetings, deadlines, pick up the kids, dinner, laundry, repeat. Everyone tells her the same thing. You're just overwhelmed. You need a vacation. You're stressed like everyone else. But here's what nobody is saying. What if it's not just stress? What if your body is trying to tell you something much darker? What if you're carrying trauma and you don't even know it? This is Sarah's story, but it might also be yours. Sarah is 34 years old, marketing professional, mother of 2. From the outside, her life looks normal, maybe even successful. But inside, there's a war happening, a war nobody can see. She wakes up exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep. Her jaw hurts from clenching it all night. When her phone rings unexpectedly, her chest tightens. When someone raises their voice even slightly, she freezes. Her hands shake. Her mind goes blank. And everyone around her says the same thing. You're fine. You're just stressed. Stop being so sensitive. But Sarah knows something is wrong. She just doesn't have the words for it yet. One day she's standing in the grocery store. It's a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special. The line is long. A child is crying somewhere behind her. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. And suddenly Sarah can't breathe. Her vision narrows. Her hands go numb. She abandons her cart and rushes outside, gasping for air. People stare. She feels humiliated. Weak. Broken. What is wrong with me? She thinks. It was just a grocery store. Just a crying kid. Just a normal day. Why can't I handle normal things anymore? That night, Sarah does something she's been avoiding for years. She searches online. Panic attack. Chronic stress. Anxiety. And then she finds a term that stops her cold. Trauma. But not the kind of trauma she expected. Not war. Not abuse. Not a car accident. Something else. Something called cumulative trauma. Small trauma. Invisible trauma. The kind that builds up quietly over years until one day your nervous system just says enough. She reads testimonies from people who sound exactly like her. People who had normal childhoods. Normal jobs. Normal lives. But who carried wounds nobody could see. Wounds that never healed because nobody acknowledged they were there in the first place. Sarah starts to cry. Not because she's sad, but because for the first time in years she feels seen. Let me take you back. Let me show you where it started. Sarah was 7 years old. Every night, she would lie in bed and listen to her parents fight. Doors slamming. Voices rising. Her little body tense under the blankets, waiting for it to stop. It always stopped eventually. And in the morning, everyone acted like nothing happened. So Sarah learned to do the same. She learned to smile. To be good. To not make waves. To keep the peace. Nobody hit her. Nobody screamed at her. So it wasn't trauma, right? It was just life. At school, Sarah was the quiet one. The one the other kids ignored. Not bullied exactly. Just invisible. She ate lunch alone. She raised her hand in class and teachers looked past her. She learned that her voice didn't matter. That she took up too much space just by existing. So she made herself smaller. Quieter. She learned to disappear. And nobody noticed. Because there was no bruise. No broken bone. No obvious wound. So it wasn't trauma, right? Fast forward to college. Sarah meets a guy. He's charming at first. Then controlling. He doesn't hit her. But he criticizes everything. Her clothes. Her friends. Her dreams. He tells her she's too sensitive. Too emotional. Too much. And Sarah believes him. Because she's heard it before. She's heard it her whole life. So she stays. For 3 years she stays. Until one day she finally leaves. And everyone says good for you, you're free now. But Sarah doesn't feel free. She feels afraid all the time. Jumpy. On edge. Like she's waiting for the other shoe to drop. But she tells herself it's just stress. Just an adjustment period. It'll pass. It doesn't pass. If you're watching this and you're thinking, wait, that sounds like me, drop a comment right now. Say me too. Because I promise you, you're not alone. And you're not crazy. Years go by. Sarah builds a career. Gets married to a good man. Has kids. Checks all the boxes. But the anxiety never leaves. The hypervigilance never stops. She scans every room she enters. She overanalyzes every conversation. She apologizes for things that aren't her fault. She says yes when she means no. She works herself to exhaustion trying to prove she's enough. And when she finally breaks down, when she finally admits she's struggling, people say you just need to relax. You're just overwhelmed. Take a bubble bath. Do some yoga. You'll be fine. But she's not fine. Here's what Sarah didn't know. Here's what nobody told her. Trauma isn't just about what happened to you. It's about what didn't happen. The comfort you didn't receive. The safety you didn't feel. The voice you weren't allowed to have. Trauma is what gets trapped in your body when you couldn't fight and you couldn't flee. When all you could do was freeze. And smile. And pretend everything was okay. And here's the real kicker. Your body remembers. Even when your mind tries to forget. Even when you tell yourself it wasn't that bad. Even when everyone around you says you're overreacting. Your body remembers. And it's been trying to tell you for years. Through tension. Through exhaustion. Through panic attacks in grocery stores. Through the inability to relax even when you're safe. Your body has been screaming and you've been told it's just stress. Sarah finally finds a therapist who specializes in trauma. And in their first session, the therapist says something that changes everything. She says your nervous system is stuck. It's stuck in survival mode. Your brain thinks you're still in danger even when you're not. This isn't weakness. This isn't sensitivity. This is a normal response to abnormal circumstances. This is your body trying to protect you. And we can help it feel safe again. Sarah learns about the amygdala, the part of the brain that sounds the alarm when it senses danger. In people with unresolved trauma, the amygdala is overactive. It sees threats everywhere. A raised voice. A closed door. An unexpected change in plans. Things that might be neutral to someone else are triggering to Sarah. Not because she's weak, but because her nervous system learned early on that the world isn't safe. That people aren't safe. That she isn't safe. She learns about the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain. The part that's supposed to calm the amygdala down and say, hey, we're okay, that's not actually a threat. But in trauma, that connection gets disrupted. The amygdala screams and the prefrontal cortex can't respond. So Sarah freezes, or panics, or shuts down, and then she feels ashamed, because she thinks she should be able to control it. But you can't think your way out of a nervous system response. You can't logic your way out of trauma. The therapist introduces Sarah to something called EMDR. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Sounds weird. Sounds too simple. But Sarah is desperate, so she tries it. And slowly, painfully, she starts to process the things she buried. The fear from childhood. The shame from relationships. The constant underlying belief that she isn't enough. Session by session, the charge starts to decrease. The memories don't disappear. But they stop having so much power. She also starts somatic therapy. Therapy that focuses on the body. Because trauma lives in the body. It's stored in tight shoulders. In shallow breathing. In a clenched jaw. Sarah learns to notice when she's triggered. To feel the sensation in her body without judgment. To breathe. To ground herself. To tell her nervous system I'm safe now. And slowly her body starts to believe it. Some days are harder than others. Some days the old patterns come back. The hypervigilance. The people-pleasing. The fear. But now Sarah has tools. Now she has language. Now she understands what's happening. And that makes all the difference. Here's what I need you to understand. If you've been telling yourself you're just stressed, just overwhelmed, just too sensitive, I need you to pause. I need you to ask yourself a deeper question. Does your body feel safe? Can you relax without feeling guilty? Can you say no without feeling terrified? Can you hear a loud noise without your heart racing? Can you handle conflict without shutting down or exploding? If the answer is no, it might not be just stress. It might be unresolved trauma. And that's not your fault. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're wounded. And wounds can heal. But first, they have to be acknowledged. Let's talk about what cumulative trauma actually looks like. Because it's sneaky. It doesn't announce itself. It hides behind terms like high-functioning anxiety, perfectionism, burnout, being type A, being a worrier. But underneath all of that is a nervous system that never learned how to rest. A body that never learned it's allowed to feel safe. Cumulative trauma can come from growing up in a household where emotions weren't allowed, where you had to walk on eggshells, where love was conditional. It can come from being bullied, from being ignored, from being told your feelings don't matter, from being parentified as a child, from growing up too fast, from never being allowed to be a kid. It can come from systemic oppression, from discrimination, from poverty, from instability, from 1,000 tiny moments where you learn that the world isn't safe and you have to constantly be on guard. And here's the thing. People will minimize it. They'll say, well, at least you weren't abused. At least you had food and shelter. At least it wasn't as bad as what other people went through. And maybe that's true. But trauma isn't a competition. Your pain is valid even if someone else's pain is different. Your nervous system doesn't care about comparisons. It only knows what it experienced. And if it experienced chronic fear, chronic stress, chronic unsafety, that leaves a mark. Period. Sarah is 6 months into her healing journey now. She still has hard days. Days where she wants to quit therapy. Days where she feels like she's not making progress. Days where the old shame comes creeping back. But she also has good days. Days where she notices she didn't apologize unnecessarily. Days where she set a boundary and didn't feel guilty. Days where she heard a loud noise and didn't panic. Days where she felt present in her body instead of constantly bracing for disaster. She starts sharing her story online. Not for attention. Not for pity. But because she knows there are millions of people out there who feel the same way she did. Who think they're just stressed. Who think they're just weak. Who think there's something fundamentally wrong with them. She posts a video titled, "I thought I was just overwhelmed, but I was actually traumatized." And within hours, the comments start pouring in. Thousands of them. "I thought I was the only one. This is exactly how I feel. I've been trying to explain this for years and nobody understood. Thank you for putting it into words." And Sarah realizes something. Her pain wasn't pointless. Her struggle wasn't for nothing. Because now she can help others see what she couldn't see for so long. That you're not too sensitive. You're not overreacting. You're responding to real wounds. And those wounds deserve care. They deserve compassion. They deserve healing. If you're still watching, I want to say something directly to you. If this story resonated with you, if you saw yourself in Sarah, I need you to do something. I need you to stop minimizing what you've been through. Stop telling yourself it wasn't that bad. Stop comparing your pain to someone else's. Stop waiting for permission to acknowledge that you're hurting. You don't need anyone's approval to start healing. You don't need a diagnosis. You don't need a traumatic event that fits the textbook definition. You just need to listen to your body. And if your body is telling you something is wrong, believe it. Start small. Find a therapist who understands trauma. Not all therapists do. Look for someone trained in somatic therapy, EMDR, internal family systems, or polyvagal theory. These are approaches specifically designed to help your nervous system heal. Start learning about how trauma works. Read books. Listen to podcasts. Educate yourself. Because knowledge is power. And when you understand what's happening in your body, you stop blaming yourself. Practice grounding techniques. When you feel triggered, when your heart starts racing, when your mind starts spiraling, bring yourself back to the present moment. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice 5 things you can see. 4 things you can touch. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. 1 thing you can taste. This signals to your nervous system that you're here. You're safe. You're not back there. Set boundaries. This is hard. Especially if you've spent your whole life people-pleasing. But boundaries aren't selfish. Boundaries are how you teach your nervous system that you're worth protecting. Start saying no. Start speaking up. Start taking up space. Start prioritizing your needs. It will feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty. That's normal. Do it anyway. Move your body. Trauma gets stuck in the body. Movement helps release it. It doesn't have to be intense exercise. Walking, dancing, stretching, shaking. Anything that helps you reconnect with your physical self. Anything that reminds you that your body is safe, that it's yours, that it's allowed to feel good. And most importantly, be patient with yourself. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel like you've made huge progress. Other days you'll feel like you're back at square one. That's okay. That's normal. That's part of the process. You're rewiring patterns that have been there for years, maybe decades. That takes time. Give yourself grace. Give yourself compassion. Give yourself the kindness you deserved all along but never received. Here's the truth. The world isn't set up to acknowledge invisible trauma. The world wants you to push through, to be productive, to be positive, to not make a fuss. The world doesn't want to hear that you're struggling with things that don't leave visible scars. But your healing doesn't depend on the world's approval. Your healing depends on you. On your willingness to see yourself clearly. On your courage to say this isn't just stress. This is trauma. And I deserve to heal. Sarah's story doesn't end with everything perfect. Because that's not realistic. She still has triggers. She still has bad days. She still catches herself falling into old patterns. But now she has awareness. Now she has tools. Now she has self-compassion. And that changes everything. She's not fighting her body anymore. She's working with it. She's listening to it. She's finally giving it what it's been asking for all along. Safety. Rest. Permission to heal. And you can too. Right now. Today. You don't have to wait until it gets worse. You don't have to wait until you hit rock bottom. You don't have to wait until everyone around you finally acknowledges that yes, you're really struggling. You can start now. You can decide right now that your pain matters, that your experience is valid, that you're worthy of healing. Because you are. You always have been. This video helped you. Do me a favor. Leave a comment. Share your story. Let other people know they're not alone. Hit that like button so this message reaches more people who need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel because we're going to keep talking about the things nobody else wants to talk about. The invisible struggles. The silent battles. The wounds that don't show up on the surface but cut just as deep. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who keeps saying they're just stressed, someone who's been struggling for years and doesn't know why, send them this video. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is validation. The permission to stop pretending they're fine when they're not. The reminder that they're not alone. That they're not crazy. That their pain is real. And that healing is possible. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken beyond repair. You are a human being with a nervous system that adapted to survive. And now it's time to teach it how to thrive. It's time to move from surviving to living. From coping to healing. From pretending you're fine to actually becoming okay. And it starts with one simple truth. What you've been calling stress might actually be trauma. And naming it is the first step toward freedom. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to consider that maybe, just maybe, you deserve more than just getting through the day. You deserve to feel safe. You deserve to feel whole. You deserve to heal. And you will. One day at a time. One breath at a time. One moment of self-compassion at a time. You've got this. And you're not alone.